Hello and welcome back to both the Across the Pod and Fins Nation UK podcast. That's right, for the second year in a row, we are doing a dual episode linking my main podcast, Across the Pod, and my Dolphins podcast, Fins Nation UK, into doing a 2024 Dolphins season preview. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis. With me, first of all, I've got full 10 yards is Sam Moores, Dolphin fan, of course, came on for last year's Dolphins season preview. Sam, how are you?
I'm good, mate. It's been a very, very busy week, but I managed to squeeze this in, and it's good because I love talking about the Dolphins, so I can't complain.
Fair enough. It's good to have you back on. We had you on, I believe, the last two season previews you've been on as well, and of course you did come on earlier in the off season for our ranking quarterback episode, which we've done again the last 3 years as well. So if you haven't already listening home, do check it out. As well with me today,
there's some controversial opinions in there as well. There's
a quarterback I've ranked bottom the last 2 years, which causes a stir. My Aaron Rodgers selection caused a lot of stir on socials. I had a few people were messaging me saying you got Aaron Rodgers' agenda. Why the hell are you putting Rodgers so low? And there were some people who equally were happy to see Burrow go above Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So yeah, very mixed reviews, but that's kind of what you want. You want a podcast that's going to engage people, get people talking. So hopefully that did the business.
You didn't have Tua number one then, Andy,
No, I think I want to say he used 12th, 11th from memory. I put him in, so it wasn't too bad.
Wasn't like 20th, 25th or something like that.
No,
last 2 years, Andy's put Tua higher than me, and I'm like the biggest Tua fan, so I've been really surprised by that.
Really, wow, that is some good going because he's not the I think you're coming around a little bit, but not the greatest.
No, I'm still not. But, we'll see this season. And you, in case you haven't heard, you'd have heard his voice just then. With me today, also making his Across the Pod debut, my Fins Nation UK co-host, Mark Bradley. Mark, how are you?
I'm very good, Andy. Thank you. Very good. I'm glad to thank you for having me on. Looking forward to kind of expanding from our Fins Nation, and good to meet Sam as well. And looking forward to a good discussion.
Absolutely. And we're going to start off by, of course, for those of you who have heard you on Fins Nation, we know exactly why you're a Dolphins fan. But for those of you who are listening on the Across the Pod platform or have never come across your work before, potentially. So, Mark, what made you a Dolphins fan?
So I guess my age primarily makes me a Dolphins fan. I was brought up in the era of the wonderful Dan Marino, and he was kind of one of my sporting idols growing up. It was, I think I mentioned on some of the others, it was the time, obviously, it was the Dolphins and the Niners and the Raiders were kind of the only real teams that anybody followed over here. And all my friends were either Niners or Raiders fans. I like the uniforms. I like Dan Marino, probably because of Ace Ventura, maybe, I don't know. But I kind of got into them from that. And so it's kind of been a sort of a lifelong fandom of them since then. Obviously not really seen a great deal of success. I don't think anybody can accuse any post 1970s, early 1970s person of being a glory hunter, being a Dolphins fan. But it's been quite the ride, and obviously looking forward to kind of seeing the next couple of years progression from the team. But yeah, that's kind of the reason why. So Dan the man was the one that did it for me.
Yeah, I mean, both. I think all of us are part of Fins Nation UK, and I know whenever I go to these meetups, I reckon I could say all but, I think literally all but me, because most people there I meet to these meetups, the group we've got there, we've met in Liverpool, Dublin, Miami, and everyone there is of a similar age to you, Mark. They're all,
I'd say be careful here, Andy. I know where you're going.
Yeah, no, I have to tread carefully because it's a sensitive topic, but yeah. Dan Marino's basically, he's recruited Fins Nation UK. He really has. People may still have gone down the route of going Dolphins because, like myself, a much younger fan, it was based on a family holiday. And I know Martin, who's one of the main guys of Finns Nation UK, he got a T-shirt brought to him when he was a kid. And I know some fans had the majority of fans I've met at Finns Nation UK meetups, they're all because of Dan Marino. And he's got a lot to answer for this podcast being created. So huge thank you to Dan. Now, before we actually get into any of the sort of off-season topics or ins and outs, the draft, news came out today of Tua's comments about former head coach Brian Flores. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I'm going to quickly get up the exact quotes he took from I think it was a podcast. I think it's on YouTube, but it
was a Dan Le Batard show.
Okay, so he's really come out and basically gone full gung ho on his thoughts on Brian Flores. He's gone, if you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and have someone else come in and tell you, dude, you are the best fit for this, you're accurate, you're the best whatever, you are this, you are that. How would that make you feel? Listen to one or the other. You see what I'm saying? So, that is quite telling comments. I mean, we all knew pretty much from the get-go that maybe Flores and Tua's relationship was a bit strained, and all the reports came out about him wanting Jordan Love, and looks like these rumors are true. I mean, Jordan Love has proved to be, albeit a very short time, a very good quarterback, but Tua has, he does struggle a lot on the floors, but the way he's improved under McDaniel just goes to show again what the power is of having a coach that likes you and gets you and wants you to play for them. Just I found shocking, really surprising comments. I'm not shocked because he sort of has alluded to it before, but Sam, your take on these comments from Tua?
I'm not surprised, first off. I'm really not, because, again, as you were saying, we've heard multiple things over the time since Flores was fired. But, so that kind of thing does tarnish his sort of legacy, because he was a very successful head coach in terms of back-to-back winning seasons towards the end. And from where they started under him to the end, that was some great growth. Admittedly, Chris Greer did a great job as GM as well at that time. But he got quite a lot, probably the best he could out of the team as a whole. But there are some players like Tua and some others that he did rub the wrong way, and especially the younger ones. Obviously, there's a new generation of athlete. It doesn't the tough love. But I wouldn't even call it tough love, because that's just downright cruel. The tough love doesn't work for some people. If it was me, for example, again, I'm similar age to Tua, a bit younger than him. If that was me in that situation, I'd feel terrible, and it wouldn't motivate me at all. If anything, it made me want to quit. So I'm not surprised. Flores was a very good, certainly defensive coach. Overall, the team was good, but I think the team are in a better place now than they were before.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm fully aware that, Flores never had Tyreek Hill when he was there, but the offense was pretty terrible. I'm not going to lie. He had multiple coordinators. The defense was always great. It was always the highlight of our team, but, we still had Waddle there. We still had Mike Gesicki there. And, the offense still was pretty bad. Now, I've been his biggest stan, Brian Flores, even after he got fired. And I don't think I can really be that anymore after seeing what I did today, because, I'm fully aware that, Belichick didn't get on with Brady, and I'm aware that other managers such as, football, like Alex Ferguson, Mourinho, weren't at times very nice people. And I think you have to be a little bit nasty to be a head coach or manager, but to tell a guy he sucks or that kind of stuff, it's more than just being hard on a player. It feels like it's almost, he didn't get his guy. Greer went for Tua over Jordan Love. He couldn't get over that, and therefore he's just all around just targeted Tua, and therefore made it sort of his mission to make his life hell, basically. So I'm definitely off the Brian Flores sort of train now, and I'm definitely can see why now. I can see now why he was fired despite a winning season. But Mark, your take on the comments from Tua.
Yeah, I think it's always disappointing to hear these sorts of things come out. As I'm sure, like you guys, I've been around sports teams, and kind of I've managed, albeit soccer rather than NFL teams, and I've managed teams with like the work lads and stuff like that, and there's always a way to deal with the different personalities that you've got, and you have to kind of look at that and go, okay, well, this guy is perfectly happy with me calling him out and that sort of stuff, but this guy isn't, or this guy, if I tell him he's not as good as somebody else, I know that he's going to play even harder, but it doesn't work for everybody. And I think even more like nowadays, you talk about kind of like Ferguson and Mourinho and people like that, and there's probably a reason why those managers really aren't around on the soccer scene as much nowadays, because players are a different kettle of fish nowadays. They're not the same, and I think like I say, we all kind of understood that there was probably not a great relationship there between them. But I think the positive to take out of it is, I think Tua feeling confident enough to kind of go and say, sort of and explain his feelings. There's still those people that constantly go back and refer to those 2 seasons as a stick to beat him with when he does well and those sorts of things. And I think coming out and kind of saying it, a bit like some of the guys did with Vic Fangio last year, and kind of just intimating that things aren't being done the right way nowadays that they used to be. And obviously, again, an old school type coach in Vic Fangio, an old school type coach in Brian Flores, in the way that they do things. And I just think it's kind of, a good thing for Tua. It feels like this is kind of a bit of a new Tua that we've got since the contract and since he came back this year, in that it feels like he's taken a massive step up in his overall confidence and his sort of bravado, if you like, in terms of leading the team. I know we spoke about his show me the money comment last week, and things like that. And the interviews that he had, and if you saw the training camp interviews with Kay Adams over the last week, when they interviewed him, and he was kind of saying that Mike McDaniel's the coach. Of course he is, but this is his team, and it's the players' team. They're the ones that need to step up and take the responsibility. It's on them just as much as it is on Mike McDaniel. And it feels like this is just kind of the latest progression in his leadership and his personality kind of coming to the fore. I think he feels, having had the new contract, he's obviously feeling the love from the organization. He's obviously feeling that, he's in a position now where he's with somebody in McDaniels. We know he went to bat for him, and Greer and everybody else like that really kind of cares about him, and really, and it's obviously showing that that's a massive thing to him. So, it's a shame to look back and think that, he kind of had to do that, and well done to him for coming through that and still being the player that he's showing himself to be at the moment. But, hopefully that bodes even better for another step up from him this year, when, he's letting go of all of those things from his past and hopefully moving on from them all.
Yeah, and that's really a nice way to segue into one of the questions I wanted to ask before we go into ins and outs. Really, we talk about Tua there, and I want to skip forward to that question about Tua. I wanted to ask you both, because we talk about obstacles he had to overcome. Of last season, he overcame the injury concerns. He one of only a handful of quarterbacks that actually played a full season. And what was a real injury crazy season, especially for quarterbacks in the NFL. He was one of the only ones that played every single game for the team. So he's overcome that. But the one thing he hasn't overcome yet is the ability to win big games. This has been a theme throughout his NFL career, whether it's games away to Buffalo or where the Titans won in last few weeks. And he's his rookie year or his second year. You had of course, the end of that last 2 seasons where, the team was at one point the 1 seed in 2023, ends up on the last day losing to the Bills against the Dolphins, of course, against the Dolphins, at Hard Rock Stadium. Now that is something he has to overcome, and he's obviously once again going to have the Bills. He's going to have a lot of teams to play this year that are going to have winning records, and that's been a theme that he can't beat teams with winning records or winning cold weather. Or Sal, what do you think he has to do to overcome this narrative that has been set on him pretty much since the moment he set on a NFL field?
I think just carry on what he's doing. Like every single one of these sort of question marks has been answered. Every single one, whether it's health, deep ball, all these, and they're all stupid in the first place. To be honest with you, if you look at what he had to deal with his first 2 years, that is like poverty NFL offense. It was terrible, horrific offensive line. Again, you had Jalen Waddle being used in the slot and nowhere else. You had no outside receivers. You have a tight end who couldn't block in Mike Gesicki. Like that was poverty offense. Like it's just he had nothing to. And then we saw when he started to get some stuff. I think very, very few quarterbacks would succeed in the situation that Tua had. Very, very few. Like we're talking probably Joe Burrow, and that's it. And Mahomes as well, but we've only seen Mahomes in a great situation, so you don't know. The only sort of quarterback we've seen perform in a terrible situation like that, consistently and play well is Joe Burrow. So we won't know if anyone else could do that. We'll start with the contract. Obviously, he's like the fourth highest paid player in the NFL, whatever it is now. I think it had to get done. I like the signing. It was about what I expected it to be, and I was happy that it got done now rather than sort of gambling on doing next offseason where he might get paid $60 million, and then because salaries just keep going up and up and up, and in 2 years' time he'll be like the 12th highest paid quarterback or something, something along those lines, just where as deals get on. And I don't see what people are complaining about in that aspect. Again, I think he's special at what he does well, especially the leadership qualities are there as well. You mentioned it, Mark. He's the last year and a half, 2 years, he's come on as a leader massively. Like he's put the team on his back, and that's a big thing about big games as well. And I believe that he will get out of this right in big games. This is the first off season that he's been able to actually improve his game over it, rather not rehabbing or going through a physique change like it was last year or anything. Like this is the first season he's actually had. And he's lost a bit of weight. He's looking a bit nimby, but no injuries or anything. Like this is the first actual off season that Tua has had his entire NFL career, and he's now on his second contract, which is insane. And again, if he has another year like the last two and he stays healthy, there's a high chance that Miami are a playoff team again. Win one game, that contract is well deserved already. And I feel like he can do that. Like the doing big games, he's he can win them. I've seen him win, in a close game, put a team on his back and win it. He did it twice last year. He did it against Dallas. And he did it in the first game against the Chargers. So he did do it twice last year. It's not happened in the big games. I know he can do it. It will happen eventually. I think it's maybe this leadership thing that he's taken on, this mantle, is what happens. But we know he can do it. He did it in his first game against the Cardinals. The game against the Cardinals where he came back, ran loads in his rookie season. Obviously, he did it loads at Alabama as well. There's clutch moments. Like he is a clutch quarterback. It's happened many times. It's not happened when it should happen. In the big games, I think it will happen. It's just when, really. I think it would. And once the Dolphins do get that first playoff win, whenever it is, I think a lot of people have different opinions.
Yeah, I think you spot on there, Sam. I think a lot of people seem to forget the Baltimore game from a couple of years ago. When down in the fourth quarter, and we scored 4 touchdowns in the cut-in, and that was Tua was kind of behind all of that. They weren't rushing touchdowns; they were passing touchdowns, and they were brilliant plays. So I know it was early in the season, and that's the what's leveled at him. But exactly as you've said there, I think the next natural progression for him, it feels like exactly as you said, it feels like the weight that he's at the minute will hopefully allow him to have a nice mix between the being able to take the hits that he obviously had to bulk up for last year and go back to a little bit of the running and the scrambling that he did when he first came in, that he left him a little bit vulnerable. So, if he's somewhere in the middle, then I think we'll be well away. And I agree with everything you said, really.
Yeah, it's I think like I said before, that we've all said before, these last few minutes, he's overcome all his challenges, and I feel like I'm just glad in a way that he has got the Buffalo game on the road fairly early on in the year. But I think
that's a good thing.
Because I think once you beat them once in that spot, I think that almost will matter as much about the weather if you play him the next year in week 17, because he knows he can beat the Bills. So I think that's something that I think that game for me is probably the biggest test for us, because we've struggled against the Bills the entire, pretty much since they've got a good. We've never been able to beat them. And Josh Allen,
there was the game. Obviously, there was the time in the heat, but also the second game last 2 years ago. The one in the snow. They really could have won that game. That was a really close fourth quarter game. If one ball is different, on that. I think actually Daniel's management in the fourth quarter is probably what lost in that game, which I think is something I'm going to come on to later on in the podcast. But they very well could have won that game in the snow. It was very close, and had they won that again, that's another thing we wouldn't be saying. So it's just the tiniest margins that they've been very unlucky. You'd like to say. Obviously, there are themes, but if they won just one of those, which was possible, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. So it's one of those things in sports that just until it's just show me what you've done, and obviously they haven't got anything to show in that aspect. But once you do show, then it changes completely.
Absolutely, I think that will be, a huge statement to the league if we were to beat them. I think that would be. I think winning that game will go a long way to winning the division. I think if we're to finally win this AFC for the first time since 2008. I think the first step has to be beating the Bills on the road. I think beating them at home is also important, because we haven't done that an awful lot apart from that one time, 2022. But I think it's such a big game, both games. I think week 2, week 3 is the first one in Miami. It's a shame it's a night game, because I'd love to have seen it in that heat like it was 2 years ago. But I'm just hoping that the fact it's early on, it's not new receivers, but sort of it's a new sort of, Diggs no longer there. There's no Gabe Davis anymore. I'm hoping there'll be some teething problems early on that we can maybe capitalize on. But I kind of wish that was a day game rather than night, because it just removes the heat factor. Moving on now to the ins and outs of the off-season. The main ins, and I do apologise if I've forgotten anyone, I do apologise. We brought in Odell Beckham Jr., Calais Campbell, Kendall Fuller, Jordan Brooks, Jordan Poyer, Siran Neal, Johnny Smith, and we re-signed after a year away Emmanuel Ogba. And also a quick in and out were both Shaq Barrett and Tia Tart, who both were in and out as quick as lightning. And then the main outs include the likes of Christian Wilkins, Avian Howard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, Keon Crossan, and Albert Wilson to retirement. Going on to the draft as well. So we took Chop Robinson, 21st overall, the linebacker out of Penn State. Patrick Paul, a personal favourite of Mark Bradley's, offensive tackle, 55th overall. Jalen Wright, one of my favourites in this draft class, 120th overall out of Tennessee, as well as Mohamed Kamara, linebacker out of Colorado State in the 5th round, Malik Washington and Patrick McMorris in the 6th round, and another receiver in Taj Washington, USC, in the 7th round. Mark, we'll go to you first on this one. Your take on the team's off-season as a whole?
As a whole, pretty positive. I think I would have liked maybe a experienced quality O-lineman to have come in, and maybe another experienced quality defensive tackle, maybe. But that being said, I know a lot of people kind of think, we did a bit of a scattergun approach in terms of replacing one man in Wilkins with 2 or 3 that we hope throughout the season can probably kind of cover. And we all know that, Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel staunchly defend the O-line and say that the O-line is just as good as it needs to be. Still not quite sure that's the case, but hey, they know much more about football than I do. But yeah, I think in terms of the signings, obviously a bit disappointed we've not seen OBJ yet. I think we were all kind of very hyped about certainly hyped about getting a sort of a proven quality WR3. But that being said, flashes in training and in the preseason games from the likes of Malik Washington, River Craycraft obviously stepping up as well, returning. Obviously had a really good game. Eric Ezekanma had a decent game on Saturday as well. So they have got a lot of bodies in the wide receiver room, and it's just one of them making that step up to be to be the kind of the dominant one in the wide receiver room. I think I was really pleased with the draft. I think all of the draftees have looked good in preseason. They've looked good in the games. Yes, obviously Patrick Paul, as everybody knows, I'm a big fan of Patrick Paul. Thought he played really well again on Saturday. The man is huge. Although I was very impressed with the size and agility of Calais Campbell. When I kind of, obviously I've seen him for years playing, but you never quite pay as much attention, I don't think, as when they're on your team and that. And the man's a mountain. So I think that size, and again, I know we'll come on to kind of the defensive coordinator side of things later, but that size and that strength and that experience, I think, can only do as good. And of course, I still have to shout out the tragic loss of Mr. Van Ginkel, because he was one of my favourite players. So I'm a bit devastated that he's gone, and so much so that I'm even playing one of my Madden leagues as the Vikings, just so I could play with Mr. Van Ginkel.
Nice.
And typically he's absolutely brilliant. Like when I'm in training, I just can't do anything with anybody because he's brilliant. And it's just like, why haven't we got him? Why didn't we sign him? Why didn't we keep him? Why? But we didn't, and we can't moan anymore. But yeah. So overall, I'm pretty pleased. I think we did what we could do. And yeah, I think looking forward to seeing them in proper action in a couple of weeks and seeing how they progress. But I certainly have a positive outlook and good hope for the future with the draftees, definitely.
Do you know what? I'll say that down that we didn't keep Van Ginkel because, I don't believe he's probably would have been worth too much money to sign. I mean, I expected Wilkins to go because I knew he probably wanted a lot of money and he's fairly big star for the team at the time. And Xavier Howard was sort of on his sort of way out, sort of performance-wise. But Van Ginkel, I didn't think we could. I don't know what his deal was for the Vikings, but I can't imagine he was asking for too much because at the end of the day, this is a guy that has overcome quite a lot himself. Talk about Tua overcome adversity. I mean, Van Ginkel, if I'm right in saying this, last summer he was released and then re-signed by the team, and was never really a starter. And we had the injuries to Phillips and Chirps. He comes in and plays really well, and I thought that second half of the season he was fantastic, and I thought he done more than enough to earn the right to stay. But obviously you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And obviously Albert Wilson, a guy I liked at Miami, a guy I loved his high five touchdown celebration he did when he's running to the end zone. I had a little soft spot for him, I must say, and I think obviously someone like Jerome Baker as well, who's been a long time servant of the team, now with the Seahawks. I mean, this is the guy again that pretty much since the time I became from a casual Dolphins fan to a diehard Dolphins fan, he was one of the guys out there, and he was never a elite player in his position, but he was very serviceable and he always did a job. And I found that, again, he obviously did decline a little bit towards the end, again, like David Howard, but I like you, Mark, I was really impressed with Calais Campbell, his performance recently. And, I like you mentioned before in Fins Nation UK, I mean, the leadership he'll bring to the team, the experience he's got on and off the field. Whilst I don't expect him to get the numbers he used to, but I think I expect him to, same thing with likes of Jordan Poyer, Kendall Fuller, just experience. And that's what I was hoping as well with Shaq Barrett before his swift retirement. But you can understand why. But, for me, I like the fact we've got, and obviously OBJ as well. We've got leaders, and that's one thing I love, that we got guys out now that, when it comes to that final stretch of the season where we have struggled in recent years, we've now got these guys that are going to hopefully steer the team onto greater heights and actually get the job done, rather than someone like Howard who just constantly wants to talk about himself. Ogba as well, finally, I liked him a lot. I didn't like him when we got rid of him, but I love the fact that he's back now. So that is something that pleased me a lot. But Sam, your take on the off-season?
So I'll start with the beginning. By the way, actually, so Van Ginkel is on 2 years, 20 million. So the Dolphins wouldn't have been able to afford him anyway. It's on quite a big contract for the Vikings. And so 10 million a year for a guy who's essentially a third pass rusher is a lot. The reason why they got rid of Emmanuel Ogba is because he was on a similar amount of money as the same thing, and they couldn't afford him. In the first place, you're not going to pay three pass rushers 10 million a year. And I get he could do more, like he could cover and stuff, but that kind of like outside linebacker is really rare in the NFL nowadays. There's not very many of them. It's either you're a middle linebacker, you're an off-ball linebacker, or you're a defensive end pass rusher that just simply rushes the passer. The likes of Micah Parsons and Carl Van Noy, for example, and Van Ginkel, they're very rare because there's not they're two separate positions. And yeah, it's more viable to have two separate guys in that. So yeah, I'm not too butthurt about that, but I can understand why, because he made a lot of plays for the Dolphins, a lot. We'll start with obviously the two big losses, Christian Wilkins and Robert Hunt. Shame to lose both of them. Obviously they're both among the best at their position, but the Dolphins have a lot of players that are among the best in their position. Obviously, you can't afford to pay every single one of them. That's just the way it works. Otherwise, the sport wouldn't be fair. And you'd have super teams like you do in the Premier League, for example. As you were saying, Mark, on that defensive line, you're going to get a lot of guys you can rotate in and out. The Ravens, obviously, which is where the DC is coming from, they've done that for ages. And Cedar played in that defense as well. I've really liked him for years, and I think he's going to flourish in the scheme. The line doesn't worry me, especially with the addition of Calais Campbell, and you've got loads of Deshaun Hand. You've got loads of players who can come in, and that's just how that's always been done for that defense. It doesn't worry me. Not renewing Robert Hunt, on the other hand, that does pay me, especially them not taking a chance on Connor Williams at centre as well after his serious injury last year, because he signed a much reduced contract with the Seahawks recently. Because you're losing a all-pro level player at centre, and you're losing a guard who's just had a massive contract because he's earned it from the Panthers, and you're replacing them with Liam Eichenberg. It was Aaron Brewer, but he's not playing anymore, and Jack Driscoll, two guys who just haven't played to that level at all. So that really does worry me. Because all I hear, all I see, or I read about this training camp is about the offensive line, and that is concerning, to be honest with you. That is really concerning. And since Aaron Brewer got hurt at centre, it's been a real issue. There are concerns about him anyway, because he's a really, really small centre. Now, it might be ideal for Tua, a smaller quarterback, but he is really small. So it would have been fascinating to see how he fit into this offense, because a lot of them are bigger guys. That would have been similar. And also Isaiah Wynn's not been ready either. He's not part of this sort of camp. So there's three interior positions. He'd be nailed on to start left guard, but that's all three interior positions that are sort of being there's concern over, you could say. So that doesn't give me much confidence at all. Now, Butch Barry, the coach.
Quick questions. Why do you think we didn't go back in for Connor Williams? Because I agree with you. I thought we'd have been all over that to go back in for him. I mean, unless the only thing I can think was that they know something we don't about his injury and weren't prepared to take the risk. But that's the only reason I can possibly think of, given one, how good he was last year. I mean, I think he was PFF ranked third in the entire league when he got injured. So I can't see any reason. He wasn't, like I say, it was a decent contract, relatively friendly contract. I can't really understand why, unless it's his injury. What do you think?
Yeah, so again, I agree with you. I don't really understand it. They might have done had they had time, but the problem is, just as Aaron Brewer got hurt, he signed with the Seahawks literally in the same day, pretty much. So they wouldn't have had. So maybe if it happened a couple of days before, they could have maybe gone back and offered him a similar contract to the Seahawks. But yeah, it might just be that they have concerns over the injury, because again, going down with people thought he wouldn't even play this year. So the fact he's signed with a team is encouraging. But yeah, maybe the Dolphins see otherwise. And then so I have a little bit of confidence, because the offensive line looked terrible last year and played pretty well. That was the best Dolphins offensive line since the Adam Gase year with Jay Ajayi, when he ran for like 200 yards in that one game in 2016. It's the best offensive line since then. And that's like 7-8 seasons or however long it is. That's saying something. So Butch Barry did very well last year. Turned Austin Jackson into from a turnstile into a player that under second contract. But if it was weird going into the season and not worrying about Austin Jackson at right tackle, I'm not worried about left tackle either, because obviously, Teron Armstead's great. he's going to get hurt eventually. That's what happens. He gets hurt every season. He plays about 14 games a season. But I know that Kendall Lamb can play a high level there because he did when Armstead was injured last year. And then if Jackson's hurt, then Lamb can play right tackle because he did that last year as well. And then if both Lamb and Armstead are hurt, then you've got Patrick Paul, who's again, from everything that you read, he's looking really good, and obviously in the preseason you can see that too. So the tackle position does not worry me whatsoever. The guard and centre position on the other hand really does. It really does. And then just going for everyone else, of course, they've definitely upgraded a tight end and linebacker, which is good. You've got a real battle for the roster spots at both those positions as well, because you've got 4 or 5 guys who could start for a lot of teams, or at least sort of be like a good backup for a lot of teams. So there's a good depth there. Tanner Connor did look very good in the first preseason game before he got hurt. You got Julian Hill, who's sort of been under the radar the last 2 years. Obviously, Johnny Smith decided that if he can play, if he's healthy, that would be a very good signing. I wish McDonald would use a tight end more, because with Darren Smith last year he didn't, and obviously in the first year of Gesicki he didn't either. So we'll see what happens there. And linebacker again, you've got so many guys now. Jerome Becker was okay, but at the start he was a bit shaky. But now you've got loads of players who can play linebacker. And that's probably one of the deepest rooms in the team. Everything I'm reading about Anthony Walker and Jordan Brooks and obviously David Long played well before, and then you've got Channing Tindall, who's looked okay in the preseason as well, which he's finally coming along. So you've got a very good unit there. And the pass rush is the last thing. Obviously, we talked about it with Van Ginkel. I'm a lot less concerned than I thought I would be. Ben, we might be without Phillips and Chubb at the start of the season, because obviously it was a shame to see Shaq Barrett retire, who was going to be the guy to start. But Quinton Bell has had an outstanding training camp, and you're going to hear a lot of stories about him. He was starting on the depth chart for a reason. He's by the sounds of things, he's been amazing. And when he does get on the roster, because he's going to be on the roster to start with because of the 2 injuries and everything, you're going to hear the story again that he used to be a receiver and now he's a converted defensive end, and now he's been bouncing around teams, and now he's really took his opportunity like that, and he's going to get probably a start in the NFL. And obviously bringing Ogba back on a much, much reduced contract to what he was on beforehand is a very good deal as well, because he's a guy who can play on the outside. He can also play inside as well. So he's one of those guys who can rotate for Wilkins. So I like that. And I'm not worried about that at all, because Phillips, his rehab's going very well by the sounds of things. Chubb will be a little bit more time. But yeah, the only thing that worries me really is the offensive line. And the thing that I like a lot, as you mentioned, Andy, I love that how many veteran depth pieces have been added. Not just whether it's Jordan Poyer, Calais Campbell, Odell Beckham, Marcus May. I've not even mentioned him. He was a very good safety for both the Jets and the Saints. That's a very good addition. And we'll talk about the defense later on. But I really like what the defensive additions, I think. So overall, we'll see how the offensive line pans out. But the things I was worried about at the start, I'm a little bit less concerned about now.
I will just go back to your point about Robert Hunt, because the Panthers paid him $100 million. Now, Hunt was nowhere near the cause of problems last year. He was a good lineman, but I'm not sure I would have paid him that much money. If that's what he was wanting, there's no way I would pay him $100 million, because there were times last year, the amount of times he got caught up for holding was quite a lot, and there were a lot of games where he did that, and the big spots as well, he would do that. So for me, I think if he wanted maybe even 50 mil, 40 mil, I'd pay it in a heartbeat, because I'd much rather him on my line than someone like Liam Eichenberg, for example.
There's a considerable drop.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that...
I know you like the Jalen Wright pick, but that pick for me should have been a guard, because now we're looking at, or someone who can play centre, because now we're looking and there's no depth, there's nothing. You didn't need another running back, because you can find them anywhere. You can find impact players anywhere. It's the least viable position for a reason. An offensive lineman at that spot would have made sense. Now, Wright's not going to play very much straight away anyway, because you've got Raheem Mostert, because you've got A-Chan, you've got Jeff Wilson, you've got so I mean Mostert and A-Chan, I don't think they're going to lose carries. So I think right is for the future, obviously, but the Dolphins are in right now. Oh, win now, right now, and a guard there would have been, plug and play guard starter would have been the best pick, I thought, at the time.
I absolutely agree, and I do feel like I'm big on right, but I know exactly where you come from. And if I'm honest, I think even with Graham Barton in the first round, I think he could be the guy we could have taken because he can play multiple.
Yeah, obviously Chop as well. That's what I was going to say. I mean, with Chop, I've got to mention his name, but yeah, with Chop Robinson, I have no worries about pass rush whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I think we said, I think at the time, me and Andy, when we spoke about the draft, we both had guards or centers as our highest picks, really. And I think that's. Yeah, I think it could come back to bite them. I think perhaps they didn't. I think perhaps the ones they wanted, if it was, I mean, they obviously wanted the cover on the edge positions, but I do wonder if they may have gone a different road if we hadn't perhaps have had the injuries to Phillips and Chubb, or if
absolutely they would have done, yeah,
or if they might have looked at it a little bit differently, sort of in the later rounds, if some of the other kind of the top ones like Powers, Jackson, as people like that hadn't already gone. So I think it perhaps ended up being a bit of a storm of things where they thought, oh well, we need to get an edge, so we'll get an edge, and then I think, well, hoping that the centers and guards we want stay. They didn't, and then I think they perhaps then thought, well, and like I say, I genuinely don't think, from everything that the guys say, and I don't think it's just kind of pulling the wool over people's eyes. I for some reason, I genuinely don't think Greer and McDaniel see what everybody seems to see, because everybody has the same concerns, and like you said, everybody says the same things, but I don't really see that. They just don't seem to think that, and I guess that's their prerogative.
Last year they were right because they did play very well. But you've lost talent. Is will the coaching methods, will the scheme, which obviously really helped the guys develop last year, will it help these new players? That's the thing, and I'm not as confident. I'm okay, but it's either if I hadn't seen last year, I think I would be absolutely bricking it right now. But because of how they played last year, I'm a little bit more. I'm just cautious, but yeah, that's just the one thing, because I think everywhere else in this roster, they've had 4 straight winning seasons for a reason. It's because they've been very, very good. Greer and Brandon Shaw and everyone, they've been very, very good at building a roster.
Yeah, I do feel as well like if Fatanu hadn't gone to Steelers just before our pick, I do feel like that may be where we would have gone, but maybe the guy they wanted wasn't there. They take him, and going back to Robert Hunt as well. I just feel like 50 mil. I think you take the risk and overpay, but I just felt like if he was wanting that much money, there's absolutely no way we pay that. Moving on, though, we will move on to the defense. I mean, Sam, you had a lovely summary before about the defense, so we've Sam has sort of put the cards on the table about what the defense offers. But Anthony Weaver comes in. He was there with the Ravens the last few years, and what a defense that was. And I think, again, this is preseason, but from what I've seen, again, from Chop Robinson, who I found was very impressive, Channing Tindall, who was really a forgotten man at one point, and he has come in and looked really good in preseason. And whilst I know it isn't everything, but there's definitely some positive signs, in preseason from the new look defense. And obviously, we all know Vic Fangio is meant to be there, and he obviously left us and all that, but I wouldn't say his defense was that impressive when you think about it. The year he was with the Dolphins. So obviously,
the start of the season, they lost a few games because the Eagles game, for example, defense that one on Sunday Night Football, the defense should have played way better than they did, and that may have been a close game. The Dolphins might have even won that game had the defense been what it was at the end of the season, because the Fangio defense took time, and then it was really, really good. And then obviously Chubb and Phillips got hurt, and then you had people signing off for the Chiefs game. You had people signing on like the Thursday and starting on the Sunday, like, and it was like the Dolphins defense last year was like this. then it was like that, and then it boom straight down again on the final week of the season.
Yeah, it was like I do feel again that defense was getting so hot, like you're saying. Then it just takes that injury to Phillips, and the injury to Chubb was the worst one for me because he didn't need to play
He
at
shouldn't
that
have been in
point.
the game.
No, the game was done. I remember Neil Reynolds was talking about it all the time on the coverage, and we were so confused. Why wasn't he just resting the players against the Ravens when you were all those points down at half time? At that point, just drop them. It would take the miracle of all miracles to win that game. And this is a team that lost to come back a year before. They're not going to do it twice in 2 years. So for me, that was so silly, really, and so it just showed McDaniel's inexperience in the big moments. Because I think you look at more experienced coaches like Harbaugh or Shanahan or Tomlin, they would have done this. They would have taken players off at half time without doubt. I'm so sure of it. So, and I do think that ultimately did cost us our season. I think in the end, it is a shame that it's happened, really, because I think Chubb having in week one available fully healthy would have been such an asset to our defense. And I do think that would have been a big plus of Anthony Weaver. But, it's a new look defense. But Mark, your take on the defense of Anthony Weaver going into the 2024 season?
Yeah, I am. He's an impressive guy. Like the way he talks, the way he kind of carries himself. He's a lot more animated. He's on the sidelines, which I always like. I know that there's pros and cons of being up in the box or being on the sideline and stuff like that. But he's a sideline guy, which I like. It feels like he's got a little bit of those tough love elements that we were talking about earlier, but probably in the right amounts that are acceptable nowadays and aren't going to make everybody kind of run for the hills or slash tires or anything else like that. I think he looks like he's really bringing the team together as well in terms of kind of around the basketball games that they have and making everyone out for dinner together and socialize and that camaraderie and everything else like that. And again, it goes to what we're talking about with Tua and the leadership and the team, and it's the players' team and it's their team, and that sense of responsibility coursing through the entire roster. And I've been really impressed with him, and I think he's going to bring. I certainly think he's going to bring some of the toughness that I think we all know we're around as a bit of a soft touch. And the players that we've brought in reinforce that we're not looking to be that anymore. We're looking to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit less of a soft underbelly, and I think that's good. So yeah, I'm pretty impressed with the guy. I think feels like he's going to be good for the development of the younger players, and he's got a lot of experience. And again, he's somebody that's very, very highly thought of around the NFL as well. I don't think he'll be here very long. I think we might get this season, maybe next season, out of him before I think he probably moves on to a head coach role. I think we just have to enjoy it while he can. And I guess the good thing about that is if he does progress in that way and he does go off to do that, the chances are that's because we've had a cracking season. So I think that's the good thing. But yeah, again, positive and looking forward to seeing what the season has to offer with him.
I'm going to say that the players really, like Mark was saying earlier, the players, it sounds like they're really enjoying it as well, compared to last year, where, Javon Holland especially, I think he and Vic Fangio did not get on whatsoever, and he's one of the best Dolphins, defensive players as well. So that wasn't a good thing. I think he's going to have his best year this year because. So Weaver's defense, he's played two different. He's played two sort of different. In his two sort of, obviously he wasn't. So it was in Houston. He was a DC in Houston, and they played a very simple, a lot of single high safety sometimes, simple 4-3 defense, And then obviously he was part of the Ravens staff with Mike McDonald last year, where they were like 3 safeties sometimes, rotating defensive linemen, just getting the best out of the players. And I think this defense is going to be very player specific. So it's going to be getting the best out of Holland, the best out of Jalen Ramsey. And you're going to see a lot of 3 safety sets, which is why they've got Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer, and Marcus May, because those are 3 great players to have on the field at one time. You've also got players like Nick Needham who can play there, Elijah Campbell. So you've got loads of players who can play in multiple positions on defense. Kader Kohu as well, and obviously Javon Holland played in the slot as well, so you might see him in the slot. We might see Jalen Ramsey in the slot as well. So you're going to get a very multiple defense, just very player specific, and I think that's going to suit the likes of Javon and Jalen Ramsey. And I'm quietly confident about the defensive output this season. It may be the same, if not better. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that it's we forget how good players we have on the defense. If everyone's healthy, if you've got Javon Holland, Jalen Ramsey, Bradley Chubb, Zach Sealer, who's I think really underrated. You think about Jaden Phillips, and it's some good players in that defense. And I think that the one thing we've really been missing really has been everyone being healthy together, because when Bradley Chubb and Phillips were healthy, Ramsey wasn't healthy. When Ramsey comes back, not long after he comes back, we see Phillips go down. We see then Chubb go down. And then, so we've really missed that time where they've all been healthy together. And the same thing goes really for, we really didn't really see on the offense, most or A-Chain play too many games together. So it was either one or the other injured. So yeah, I think we said before in previous episodes, injuries are the big thing, and if we can sort out injuries, we have a good team. But we haven't been able to really, in the last couple of years, keep players healthy. So, yeah, hopefully that changes going into this season. But we will head to our final segment, which is going to be our win-loss tie section. So for those of you who haven't listened to this podcast before, each family comes on with their team's record by going through each game and answering with a win-loss tie record. Now, Sam, you came on last year. Me and you did a joint team prediction. Dolphins went 11-6 in 2023. Do you by chance remember what our prediction was last year?
I might guess that it's 11-6 again, but I can't remember.
It was bang on. We were bang on the money last year. We got 11-6. So hopefully we can keep on the trend this year.
Oh, absolutely. The schedule's really weird as well this year. Like it's a lot different to what the Dolphins schedules of recent years have been. I mean, you got the end is very tough, but you're playing teams you wouldn't normally play at the end of the season. So there's no Buffalo right at the end of the season, and the Jets games are going to be the interesting one. The 2 Jets games, the Browns one, and then we'll see what happens in the Niners game. But the start of the season is very favourable for the Dolphins. The end of the season, we'll see what happens, because that is the one thing that worries me, because yes, we're not playing Buffalo at the end of the season, but you've got a stretch of games from like week 12, 13 onwards that are incredibly tough back to back to back. And you have to win the home ones of those, at least, I think, to win the division.
Yeah, and it starts week 1. Now, we are going to alternate between the 3 of us. So Sam will start off with week 1, and then we'll go Mark, then me, then Sam, then Mark, then me. We'll do it that way. But Sam, start us off week 1 at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So the Dolphins at home in September. There's the reason why they win those games 99% of the time. The Jaguars, obviously, they'd be used to the heat as well. But the Dolphins, they're very, very good at home. It's very rare they lose a home game. And the Jags don't fill me with confidence. There's a lot of new pieces on the offense, and also the weather at the end of last year as well. They didn't fill me with confidence at all. And the offensive line, if you can disrupt Trevor Lawrence, then which a lot of teams did last year, then this offense isn't as functional as it has been. I mean, yes, he's big. He can sustain the hits, but once he gets hurt, then it's another question. So yeah, I'm not very confident on the Jags. I think the Dolphins will win that game because it's at home. If it was away, I think it would be very, very, very close. But yeah, the home advantage there, you can't deny that.
Fair enough. Then week 2, Mark, we're at home to the Buffalo Bills. Win, loss, or tie?
It's got to be a win. It's got to be a win. I mean, not saying it will be, but it's got to be. It needs this. We need that. We need to put that marker down. I agree. I think we'll beat the Jags. Move on to Buffalo. at home, Thursday night football, and it feels like that's the tone setter, that game. That's gonna be the one. That's the one where Tua can come out, national spotlight. We can come out, we can beat the Bills. We can say to everybody, Vegas, sportsbooks, NFL Network, pretty much everybody's written the Dolphins off this year, in terms of challenging and everything else like that. From what I've seen, some of them barely think we'll scrape 10 wins this year, but I think they're going to be well up for that. I think we've heard all the stuff about McDaniel having his 24 everywhere, 24 years since we won the playoff games and everything else like that. And I expect it to be close. I expect it to be tough. I expect it to be bruising. I don't think it's going to be the normal sort of Dolphins game that we're going to play. I think they're going to come out hard on that game, and I'm going to go for a very narrow but very crucial win.
Okay, so then week 3 is on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. This is where I come in. I'm going to go for the win. This isn't the Seahawks of old. This isn't the Seahawks of the Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor sort of defense era, Legion of Boom. I do think that whilst they're not going to be a bad team, they're not going to be a great team. And I think, of course they've got, weapons like DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett can still produce on his day, and they've got a young receiver and Smith and Jigba, and I think there's players there, but I just don't think there's enough there to beat a Dolphins team early on in the season, who notoriously in recent years have been done really well in recent years in the start of the season. So I think this is a very easy win. Sam, back to you for week 4, another home game, 3 of the first 4, which is really good, against the Tennessee Titans.
Now, sitting at 3-0, I think the Dolphins will be talked about a lot on talk shows and everything. I think it will get to them a little bit. So I do think they'll lose this game. Monday Night Football against the Titans was a bit familiar, like last year.
Yeah.
But I just, one, because I think that'll be the game where after that game, the team will regroup and turn around. But I think they're going to lose at least one home game, and I feel like this one could be a contender for that. Not only because of last year and everything, but also because the Titans are a good team. They've had a very, very good off-season. They're looking. I don't understand where all this. They're not bright enough. I don't think, because they've had a very, very good off-season. I think Brian Callahan will have a very good. He'll be a very good head coach. Obviously, another one of these McVay, Shanahan kind of. There's tons of them in the league now. It's a very, very quarterback-friendly offense, which is great for Will Levis. Also, he's got his dad over, who's probably the best offensive line coach in the league as well. So last year, where offensive line was an issue, I doubt it's going to be an issue this season as well, because their offense will be vastly improved. The run game will look better as well, and their defense have had a lot of guys on as well. I won't be shocked to see the Titans make the playoffs. So so they might lose this game, unfortunately, but I don't think it'd be a bad thing if they do lose this game, because the Titans this year are a lot better than the Titans last year.
Interesting. I think I have a lot of different views about the Titans than maybe you do, Sam, on that one.
It's just maybe it's just because it's just the pieces together. But as I said, and it's just the offense that Levis is going to be in. He looked pretty good last year at points. Again, the offensive line being a lot better, because that's been the one Titan. The offensive line the last 2 years has been horrific. So a better offensive line there, and again the defensive additions that I think they got to where they could with Vrabel. Now with just everything there, like on paper it should work. Whether it does or not is another question. But I think on paper, like based on what we've seen from the other teams that run this offense and everything, it should work on paper.
So we've got week 5 back with you, Mark. Is a road game against the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I hate games against the Patriots, because we do really well, and when we do really well, there's always that it has to end, and I always worry that the next game is going to be the next game. But
first one about Belichick, of course, isn't it? So I mean, let's hope that's not a sign
for them, and we carry on with the record as we did do when Bill was there. We should win on paper. We should win. This should be one of our easier games of the season when you look at everything that the Patriots are currently. They're in a rebuild. There's no two ways about it. The trading Judon this week as well weakens them even more than they already were. That being said, Drake May had a good game over the weekend. Looked good. Looked kind of like he could be doing things. So I think it's a win. I hope it's a win. I think on paper there shouldn't be any too many difficulties there with them, and I'd expect that to be a nice victory. And like you say, perhaps if we've come off the back of a loss to the Titans, again, you're going to want them to be up for that divisional rival going into New England and saying, last week was a blip. We're back at it, and here goes, and hopefully getting a good. It'd be nice if the Patriots game was the equivalent of the Broncos game from last year, and we
that would be amazing.
That would be great. I can hope for that, but I think I'll just settle for the win.
Yeah, me too. Week 6 is a horrible bye week to have, but week 7 we're on the road to the Indianapolis Colts. Now this is where I'm picking next. Now, I think if it wasn't a bye week, I would say potentially lose this game. But I think if Richardson is healthy, he is the kind of quarterback we don't like playing. Just ask any Dolphins players who's played against Josh Allen in recent years. We don't seem to. Remember Kyler Murray having a good game against us a few years ago. We don't appear to do, and Lamar Jackson has tortured us in a couple of games he's played. We don't really tend to deal well in recent years with mobile quarterbacks, and Richardson obviously is a very mobile quarterback. But I think the fact we don't know whether he'll be fully healthy or back to full sort of being we've only really seen him in a handful of games, and it's not really. We don't know enough about him to really make a true opinion. And I think the fact it's a bye week as well, I'm going to give us a win. But I think if it wasn't a bye week, I would say they win. So I'm going to give them the edge, even though it's in Indianapolis. I'm going to give us the edge, but I think this could be one where it could be if Richardson is fully healthy. And I think that this could be a really tough game for us defensively because we have struggled in recent years against these mobile quarterbacks. So, going to give us a win, but I'm not too confident about that pick. I think I feel a lot less confident about that than my Seahawks pick in week 3. So, going to give us a win, but a very close one. Sam, back with you for week 8. And so you host as we host the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins should win this one. I think they will win this one. But it'll be a lot closer than some people expect because the Cardinals are better than they were last year. Only a little bit better. They didn't add that many players. I thought they'd go a bit more aggressive in year 2 of the new sort of regime. But they played very hard on the Jonathan Gannon last year. They looked really good. They beat some teams that quite rightly they shouldn't have done. And I think they'll make it a tough game, but again, it's in Miami. It's a home game. I think they'll get through this, but I think this Cardinals game will be a lot closer than people think because just because of one of the defense that Jonathan Gannon runs, and also because of how well they looked with similar to like the Dolphins did in 2019 with Flores. That's sort of where the Cardinals were. Towards the end of the season, they played some really good football for a team that isn't very talented at all. Now they've added some players of better offensive line, weapon. Kyler Murray's healthy as well, so Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, and then adding to their defense and Darius Robinson as well. This college team should be better, but the Dolphins should just win this game.
Well, I hope that's the case. I'll be at this game. So for those who are listening from the Finish Nation UK podcast, hopefully some of you are going to be out there, especially those who live in the States. So do come say hello if you are out there. I know Wayne Collard, who is the main guy behind Finish Nation UK, who creates a graphic for this podcast. I'm going to be going with him as well as obviously Kay and my girlfriend Jess, and looking forward to going to the game. And I'm hoping this time I'll finally see us win at home. I said before in this podcast, I've been to 5 games in person, not yet see us win a game live. So I think if I can't see us beat the Cardinals, then maybe I'll ban myself from all future games. But hopefully it's the one like the Bills game. If we can beat them, that turns this drought around. Hopefully, I'll then be able to go to a few more games and see us win more. But I'll be a bit worried if we do lose this game. But moving on though to week 9 is the big one for me. I think this is the biggest game of the whole calendar this season. Marcus, you again for the Bills. This time on the road in week 9.
Yeah, I'm a bit torn with this one. As much as I'd like to think that we're going to carry on the run, I think inevitably we're going to lose some games. We're not going to go undefeated as much as we'd like to. It's a hard game. It's a winter game. It's all the things that we hate, and I would love to say that it's all going to come right and everything else like that. But I do think we might come a cropper in this one, unfortunately, and it's going to be sadly, very sadly, because you know how much I hate the Bills. I think sadly it might be a loss this one. Like I say, it's just them. Them at home. They're an even more difficult proposition. All I hope from this game, my hope for it is a close game, a good game from Tua, a good game from the offense, and we give them a game. I think if we go in there and we give them a good game, it's a close game, within a field goal or a touchdown or whatever, and we've at least shown that we can go in, compete with the Bills at home. I would settle for that, but I do think it'll be a loss. But hopefully we can at least sort of keep it close and take it right to the wire, because again, I think that's an important thing in Tua's progression as well, that he shows that he can at least mix it with them and not kind of fade into the background. So yeah, a loss, but hopefully a close, hard fought, still mildly encouraging one.
I agree totally there. I do worry about this game, but I think if you start 6-1, I think you take a loss there. I mean, to go 6-2 after week 9 would still be a great start, and I don't think there'll be many teams at that point with a better record in the whole NFL, let alone the AFC. So, yeah, hopefully that is the case. Week 10 though is back with me as we go from one end of the scale to the other. Weather-wise, we go from Buffalo to LA to take on the Rams. This one's tough. I think we're in warm weather. There's no Aaron Donald anymore. I like Jared Verse
as well. Like it's not just warm weather. It's for, and also you're probably going to get more Dolphins fans than Rams fans there as well.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
The way it goes so far.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give us a win. So I think the fact that it's warm weather, there's no Aaron Donald. I like Verse a lot. I think Verse might be Defensive Rookie of the Year, or at least a contender for it. But I just feel like, the fact Donald's not there. But it is McVay. You know what? I'm going to do a full 180. I'm going to say a loss, because this time of year, we tend to start, actually, maybe not week 10, actually. I'm doing a real tossing and turning for this game.
It's a Monday night game as well. I don't know if that comes into play or not, but it is a Monday night game.
I'm gonna give us a win. What the hell? Why not? That was tough. God, that was really tough. That could need to go one or two ways. I think, the Rams are a very good team in there, very well coached. McVay is an excellent coach, and I think he could draw up some schemes. But we did beat them, albeit years ago. We did beat them last time we played Sean McVay. So, I'll give us a win. Week 11 is back with you, Sam, as we host the Las Vegas Raiders.
So, with the state of the Raiders roster, the Dolphins should win this easily, because it's one of the worst in the league. So I've been completely honest with you. I think they will win it. It may be closer than you think, because the Raiders are coming off a bye, and Antonio Pierce, he coached his team very well last year. Went after earning himself the head coach role permanently. They're coming off a bye, so they will be ready to play this game. But I think Dolphins, quality-wise, especially after after the Buffalo game, would have just won the Rams game in this case, and then they'll be looking to get back on a roll again. So I think Dolphins should win this game. Despite the Raiders coming off a bye.
Christian Wilkins return though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's well against the interior offensive line. That is a concern. But
Tua's going to need his tin hat on that day.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But I think the Dolphins, the rest of the Raiders roster is terrible. So the Dolphins should win this one because they win like 90% of the position matchups. Receiver versus except whatever. So the Dolphins should win this game, but it may be closer because the Raiders come for bye and the Wilkins factor as well.
So week 12, back with you, Mark, and once again you've got the Raiders, you've got the Patriots, this time at home.
Yeah, easy victory. No, I mean,
now if we lose this game, I'm come back to you on that one.
Yeah, no, I mean again,
Flip it up.
Again, it should be a win. Same as the Raiders. Matching up, we are, we should wipe the floor with them, especially at home. And I really hope that we do. But again, historically, it's that even more than the game at their place, the game at home feels a bit like a banana skin. It's you would expect by this point they're going to be massively adrift at the bottom of the AFC East. And I do think with the Jets, I think they're going to be stronger this year. So I think there's going to be, I would imagine at that point that all three of us, the Bills, Jets, and the Dolphins are going to be probably amongst three of the best records in the NFL, I think, at that point. So you'd expect that the Patriots are going to be some way adrift. So it does feel like a banana skin game. It does feel like it could be one of those where, we go into it expecting to win, thinking that we've got it in the bag, and it can bite us. But I am going to say that Coach McD is not going to let that happen, and we're going to win.
I love it. Week 13 is Thanksgiving game as we take a road trip to the Green Bay Packers. This is back with me.
Primetime Thanksgiving as well. There's like everyone's watching this game, which is a spot for the Dolphins. Primetime Thanksgiving, every person in America is watching this game.
Literally every person, isn't it? It's literally everybody in the entire nation. No pressure.
I've wanted this game for so long. I've wanted to see it on Thanksgiving for as long as I can remember. It's been a while. I believe 2011 was the last time we did it. But I'm going to give us a loss. I do think that it's a cold weather thing. I think the Packers to me are a really, really good team. Again, until he says anything, until he proves me otherwise, Tua can't win these games in these kind of conditions against the good teams, and this team in general can't. So I'm going to get the Packers a win. I think they're a good team. We are due a loss. We are 9-2 before this after 12 weeks. So I think that loss is going to be now. I just feel like, a Lambeau as well, which is a notoriously hard place to go to. I'm going to give the Packers the win. Now, week 14 is the first of our two games against the Jets. Sam, this one's at home, 8th of December, win, loss or tie.
These Jets games are so hard to call because obviously we've not seen the Jets of Rodgers yet, so we don't know how they're going to look whatsoever. But I'm giving the Dolphins a win for this game because from everything I see with the Jets, the Dolphins are way better coached than the Jets are. So I feel like that may be in a game. I think a lot of the times when the Dolphins play Buffalo, they're out coached by the Bills, and a lot of the times, last year, and McDaniel has outcoached Salah, Flores outcoached Salah. Like I think that, and also their offense. They may have Rodgers, but their offense, I don't trust just everything around the offensive scheme. I don't trust it. So they may have the players there, but I just don't know if that's. I don't know if it's actually going to work. So I think the Dolphins are better coaches, and I think that's what will give them this game, as well as it being at home, of course. I think the real question is, the following game. That's, for me, is a toss. I really don't know how that's going to go. But because of how well coached the Dolphins are, I think they win this game against the Jets.
Well, that one next week, Mark, is at the Houston Texans, win, loss, or tie.
Yeah, sadly, I think we're going to take the L.
Texans are for bye as well, which is
big. I think the Texans are going to be a really good team this year. I think they've, the additions that they've made, the whole aura around the team seems really positive, with the changes that they've made and the players that they've brought in. And I just think, they're well coached. Stroud's obviously, excellent. And again, that type of quarterback that we have difficulty controlling and sort of looking at. Our old nemesis, obviously, Stephon Diggs is there as well. So they've got a very good offense. They've got a very good wide receiver core. They've got a very good tight end core. They're just. I've got a sneaky suspicion that as an outside bet for going quite deep into the season this year, the Texans. I think they're going to be really good, and I think unfortunately we're going to come a cropper there. I think it's going to be a loss.
Well, sadly, I think the streak continues in week 16. We're hosting the 49ers. I think this is probably our easiest one to call in terms of losses. Even though we're at home, I think it would take basically what happened when we played them last time after reaching a Super Bowl, an injury bug. That's the only way we're going to beat them. But I think their team's just too good. I think on our day we can beat them. Obviously, we can beat them. We're one of the best teams in the NFL on our day. But I just think, even though we're at home, I just feel like this Niners team, normally this time of year in the Shanahan, start to get hot as well. I remember they lost 3 games in a row mid-season, and then they ended up going on winning every game until, I don't know whether they may have lost week 18 or something, but with backups. But this team is far too good in every aspect. Coaching, quarterback probably is the only one where they're not. But running back, they got better running back. They got just as good as a receiver core. Tight ends better. Linebackers are better. I think all around this team's pretty much in 2/3 the areas way better than the Dolphins. So yeah, I'm going to give the Niners the loss on this one. I'm
going to disagree with you there, Andy. We're going to win that game. We are not going to lose the 49ers again. I hate the 49ers, as you know. We are not going to lose that game. I'm going to be watching, screaming at the telly. We're not going to lose that game. But by all means, obviously, for our purposes, you're probably right. But we're going to win that. We're going to win. We're going to beat the 49ers.
I would love nothing more. I really would. I mean, I got friends who are Niners fans, good friends, but I can't really see anything but them. But week 17, back with you, Sam. Another tough team to play. This is a tough end of the season. My goodness. On the road to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, from week 13 onwards is incredibly difficult. Now, the Dolphins have to win 2 of those games, and if they win 2 of those games, they should be okay because of how easy the rest of the season is to get into the playoffs, maybe even win the division. Especially, it may come down to the Week 18 game against the Jets. You never know. But I think the two games that are the most crucial of the season actually aren't division games. I think that especially the Jets games. I think it's the Niners game and then this Browns game, because if the Dolphins win both of them, then they're in a very good position, and a very, very good position. Again, I think the way it works out, I think they'll win 1 and lose 1. I think, as Mark said, I think they'll lose to the Niners, but I think they'll win this game on Sunday Night Football away to the Browns. It'll be close. The Browns are, even with quarterback deficiency and everything, because Watson's not been good since he came back at all. And obviously last year with whoever they're playing, whether it was Flacco or they found a way to win a lot of the time. I think they had one of the best records against playoff teams and not winning teams last year. So this is a very, very tough test for the Dolphins. But I just have a feeling that this is the one. I feel like, again, this may be one of the most fascinating games of the season. But I just got a feeling that that's the one the Dolphins win. And then hopefully I'd like to think it doesn't matter what happens in the Jets game in week 18. That's where the Dolphins want to be. They want to have, whatever it is, playoff berth division secured by week 18, because the amount of week 18 heartbreaks that we've had as Dolphins fans, I don't want to see that again. So yeah, I think it will be a win here, away in Cleveland on Sunday Night Football, and that will be the one that puts the Dolphins in a position to do whatever they want to do in the postseason.
To quote Kevin Keegan, I would love it if we beat them. Tiny Mark, you got the Week 18 game, which is always an asterisk, always is, because you don't know who's made the playoffs, could rest players. And I must stress as well that late on in the season, they do tend to change games dates-wise. So the Browns game may easily stay at 8:20 p.m. Eastern or 1 in the morning. But at the same time, depending on if the Browns are rubbish or we're rubbish, that'll get moved, I'm sure. No doubt
I have a feeling it will stay, just because of, I think both teams will have winning records, or at least for most of the season.
Maybe.
So if they only normally flex out bad games, I'd be shocked if this is a bad game.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a game where they put it on because both teams are battling for the number one seed or battling to win, one team to win the division. But yeah, hopefully it's on TV, because I love seeing it on prime time. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind it being a bit earlier, because it is a 1 a.m. game in the UK.
Yeah.
Mark, back with you for the final game prediction-wise, on the road to the Jets.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Well, we 11-5.
Yes, 11-5 going into week 18. So that obviously gets you into the playoff, whether it's still battling for the 1 seed, battling for the AFC East division. We don't know what, or could be a case where we've got 3rd seed locked up and we've got no 4th seed to worry about, 2nd seed or anything like that.
So yeah, so I had that I thought we'd finish 12-5 this year. So if we're going on that, it should be a win. I hope it'll be a bit of a dead rubber, and that it is one of those games where we can rest people or those sorts of things. But yeah, I thought 12-5 this year, so I'm going to go with a win. I'm going to stick my neck out and say, let's go with a win. I do think, my bold prediction, I do think the Bills and the Jets going into the playoffs. I don't think the Bills will make it.
I've honestly, I think that's the thing, because the picking the Bills game in week 9 is difficult, because they've lost a lot of starters, or the defense isn't the same. Obviously, their receiver core is probably one of the worst in the NFL now. So it'll be interesting to see how Josh Allen can cope without Stephon Diggs, without Gabe Davis. Like I like Curtis Samuel, but I don't think he's a wide receiver 1 in this league, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think he's a great receiver 2.
It'll be Kincaid. It'll be like a Kelsey Gronk.
Yeah. But do you know what I mean? Like, as in,
no, I agree totally. Yeah,
it's a lot of guys that I really like. Like, I like Matt Collins. I like, there's a lot of guys that I actually really like in that receiver room. But there's loads of, I love Curtis Samuel. I think Shakir's good, but it'll be interesting to see, like the Chiefs last year, it'll be interesting to see who gets the targets there, because you get a lot of sort of receiver 2, receiver 3 people, and then will it be Kincaid? Well, Dawson Knox. We'll see what happens. But the Bills. There's a lot of unknowns in the Bills, and that does sort of, as a Dolphins fan, sort of excites me a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I think it could be, and I think it'll probably come down to what's needed as to if one team needs to win and the other doesn't. But let's go for it. Let's go for a win, because we don't want to lose to the Jets twice, do we?
Absolutely not. So
that'd be unbearable. I've got a friend who's a Jets fan, and it will be unbearable. I've been able to lord it over him for years, but so I don't want that tide turning at all.
No, me neither. Before we do go, we'll get a quick response from you guys. 12-5 record. We get into the playoffs. How far do we advance in the postseason? Sam, for you.
Well, 12-5 probably gives you a home playoff game. So I say to the divisional round, and then we'll see what happens there. But I just want to see a playoff win. So I'm wishful thinking. But at 12-5, you should have a home playoff game. So that and then the dream scenario for the Dolphins then is you want a home playoff game, and if you're playing away, you want to be playing in Houston. So then you play in a dome, and then or you want the dream scenario would potentially be sort of maybe obviously number 1 seed would be great, but if you're number 2 seed, you want the Houston to be number 1 seed, and then you want to win, and then play Houston in the championship game, and then anything could happen.
Wow, that'd be amazing. In warm weather as well. There's not too cold in Houston, so that could be.
It's exactly what you want. If the Dolphins' path through the playoffs is through Houston, then I'll be really encouraged. Even though they're really good, I think that'd be a fascinating game.
Yep.
I think it could be box office. I do think as well. I think divisional round. I don't think it'll be via a bye. I do think it'll be via either the 2nd or 3rd seed or the 5th seed. But I do think we'll finally break that long 24-year playoff win drought. I just don't think we're as good as the Chiefs. If they're healthy, the Bengals, and I think we're level on par with the Bills. I think the Bills, Dolphins, Jets are very similar, I think, in terms of talent, overall, pound for pound. And then, Mark, for you, your prediction for how far the team will go in the postseason with that record?
Yeah, I'm going to be. I mean, I think we all just want to see that one win in the playoffs, and I think we'd all be satisfied, and we'd be happy and everything else like that. That being said, we don't know what kind of who's going to be around next year. We've got a couple of big contracts that we need to pay and everything else like that. Do we really push it this year and really go for it, and let's see how far we can get? I think a fit, healthy side can go all the way to the Super Bowl. I really do. If we can get that is the question. But I think our number 1 players, all fit, all firing, I think we can match up with anybody across the rest of the NFL. If you look position for position, it's just if we can get the play calling right, if we can get Tua's head right, if we can get there's a lot of variables. So I don't
no passes on 3rd and 1, please, McDaniel, because if that's a way. Passing on 3rd and 1 is a waste of a down, because if you the momentum just goes if you incomplete it. Like you may go for it in 4th and 1, but if you run it and then it's different. Like I'm not asking every time, but like the amount of 3rd and shorts the Dolphins just messed up last season in big games, it just frustrated the hell out of me.
I think it was 5 on Saturday that they did, and they ran on every one.
There you go.
I think it was. I think he might have got that message from literally everybody screaming at him for it. But yeah, I think he did. And interesting, just a total random thing. We're talking about that 3rd and 1. Jonnu Smith being used in motion, and obviously is obviously another feather in the cap for something like that, because he's a big guy, a big strong guy. So I definitely think we're going to see that
well, which is why it's perfect in that situation.
We definitely don't want to be doing that. I agree with you entirely. It's just awful when we do that, and you just think, why? But yeah, so I think we can. I don't think we will. Head over heart. I think if we can get to the conference game or the divisional game, amazing. We absolutely should be winning a playoff game. We absolutely should be. That's the minimum expectation. That would be fantastic. I would be more than happy with that. But I think if things went well and all things being equal, if everything we got to the end of the season fully fit, maybe we've got a rejuvenated Bradley Chubb because he's not really played until December or whatever as well. Then a bit like when Ramsey came back, then fantastic. And I think we could. You've got to aim high, haven't you, when you start the season? Otherwise, what's the point? But so why not? But I think realistically, I think win a playoff game, and then like I say, if we can win the next one, then excellent. But it'll be an interesting one, especially if a few of the teams that we spoke about step up and progress this year. It could be a bit of a different makeup in the playoffs this year to what we've had over recent years. We could have a few surprise teams in there, which would be nice to see, and have some different sides to be going up against in the playoffs rather than the Bills and the Chiefs every year.
Well, yeah, as long as we're not playing the Chiefs or the Bills. Actually, if we play the Bills, we beat them, fair enough, but I wouldn't want to play the Chiefs or the Ravens, if I'm honest. Yeah. And I said
the Bengals as well. The Bengals in the playoffs, like Bengals. But basically, you want to play Houston in the playoffs, or like Indianapolis or something. That's what you want in the playoffs, because
the big game.
Just like going to Cincinnati, going to Buffalo, going to Baltimore, going to Kansas City. Going to Cleveland, like those places scare me in the postseason.
Yeah, I think, if I'm honest, at that point, unless you play someone from AFC South who sneaked in, I think they're all going to be hard games, especially in this conference. NFC wise, you play NFC South winners, you're laughing, but otherwise, I think the AFC, it's so tough. I think whoever you play, especially if you're on the road, it's going to be hard, and I do think that it will be a challenge. And I said before as well, if you do win a playoff game, I am buying the jersey of whoever makes a winning play, provided they don't mess it up the following week and cost us the game. That is my plan. That's why 2 years ago, I almost bought exactly the jersey after that Bills game. But that's still the plan. I planned it 2 years ago. Still hasn't happened yet. I will do it. That's my plan, because I've never seen us win a playoff game.
Stormed up with an end zone interception, running it back for a pick six, Andy. That's what you want.
I want that. I want to do that jersey so bad. That would be amazing. But that is actually the best way to end the podcast, if we're mentioning Storm Duck. This has been both the Across the Pod and Fins Nation UK Miami Dolphins 2024 season preview. So once again, huge thanks to both Mark Bradley and Sam for coming on today.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me on, mate.
Yeah,
no problem at all. And you can see if you're watching on YouTube, you can see both their handles on Twitter on the video, both Mark and Sam's. But for those who are listening on podcast or Spotify, it is at Sparks1978 and the SJ Moores. But these will be on our socials, put on anyway. So do give them a follow if you haven't already. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our Miami Dolphins season preview. We have just 2 teams left. We'll see you guys on next team season preview.